You make me co-host. Hello students. Am I audible to you clearly? Welcome Shabaridashan, welcome Rajesh, welcome Dinesh, Surya, Sanju. For all of you clear? All right, thank you. So we are continuing medieval India part. Yesterday we have discussed ancient. We have seen how questions are being framed. Yesterday we learned that every part of the syllabus you should have command, because UPSC frame in such a way that we cannot escape. You may be comfortable in Indus Valley civilization and Vedic civilization, but if you are not comfortable in map pointing, one question you cannot attempt successfully. Those things we have seen yesterday. Now come to medieval. How, in case of medieval India, how questions are being framed. When it comes to section A, that is map pointing, 20 questions. That is the first one. Now when it comes to fifth one, 5 questions are given. This is how 5 questions, A, B, C, D, E. Each question carries equal mark, that is 10 marker. Now you observe how UPSC is distributing these 5 questions in different parts of the syllabus. Broadly, what is the syllabus when it comes to medieval India? Now here, there is one segment called early medieval period. Early medieval is very, very dangerous zone, because it can fall under section A also, it can fall under section B also. Broadly, if we divide paper 1, generally 2 parts, ancient and medieval. But when it comes to our paper, we have to have specific idea about the third one also. This is purely ancient and this is medieval. But there is a transition period. Suddenly, all the ancient institutions will not enter into the medieval institutions. Always, you will find a transition. This we call early medieval. And early medieval is such a sensitive area, like in case of map. When it comes to ancient part, map is one sensitive zone where most of the students feel difficulty. And when it comes to early medieval also, similar kind of problem will come for most of the students. Because one problem is, there is no single specified source for the early medieval part. That is one of the big reasons. And other one is, there are so many kingdoms, segments of kingdoms, there is no centralized authority. When it comes to ancient, at least you can study like Mauryans, Guptas, likewise. And you will definitely get on Mauryans and Guptas. But when it comes to early medieval, you don't have such kind of centralized authority. Many political segments are there. That is complicating further. Now, one more complication is, these early medieval questions will not directly fall under either here or here. This is what we are going to see. Yesterday we have seen that art and culture related questions from section A. Now in section B also we are going to see that these early medieval questions, some of them are going to come in section B. That is why you cannot ignore this early medieval part despite having some difficulty in the content. That is why you should have specific focus here also. Yesterday we have seen this art and culture part. All questions in section A. Question number 4, we have seen art and culture related from early medieval India came in section A. Now you will see section B. You can observe here. The first question itself, discuss the various proponents of Indian feudalism. And itself is giving, the first question itself is talking about feudalism. And that feudalism fall under this category only. So now you see, and that too, they are asking about different proponents. There are different scholars who talked about Indian feudalism. And it is not only confusion for students also, it is confusing area even for the scholars also, early medieval part. That is why so many debates are there. What is the exact nature of Indian polity during early medieval time period? Some say it is a segmentary model. Some say it is feudal model. Someone say it is integrative model. So likewise, different type of proponents are there when it comes to Indian feudalism. So with respect to Indian feudalism itself, there are multiple theories and different people contributed for this. Now I will show the answer for this. Simply, the body is introduction, you will write about feudalism. Body is about different proponents of the Indian feudalism. Conclusion you will see. Now you see this, different proponents. The first person name will come, Colonel James Todd. He was the one who for the first time used this early medieval period is like a feudal segment. Now let me go to India map. Now early medieval part. This early medieval is 750 AD to 1200 AD. Now during this time period, now what was the condition? Now during this particular time period, there are different Rajputs here. Different kingdoms were there. And Rajput is one segment. Again, there are multiple theories who are these Rajputs. One segment when it comes to this area. And when it comes to here, Western Chalukyas were there. Before that, Rashtrakutas. Then when it comes to here, Cholas were there. Then here, Western Gangas. You will see so many people in Orissa, Eastern Gangas. And in Rajput itself, so many like Paramaras, Chandelas, Gahadwalas, and Chauhans. Here, Hindu Shahis. Here, Solankis. Now you see how confusion this area. Now this made scholars also think about what is the exact nature. When it comes to Mauryan polity, yesterday we have seen one question, what is the imperial ideology of Mauryan Empire? And it is very easy for scholars also, historians also to study what is the nature of Mauryan polity. But how you describe that the nature of Indian political system in 750 to 1200? If you talk about Indian political system, whom you are talking about? Are you talking about Hindu Kush people? Or are you talking about Rajputs, Chandelas, Paramaras, Rashtrakutas, or Cholas? Who are the exact one? And here you have Kamarupa kingdom is also there. And when it comes to here, Palas and Senas. Now when these many people are there, it's very difficult to define the exact nature of political system. That is why scholars considered this particular time period is the age of feudalism. And some scholars agree to that, some scholars do not agree to that. But within feudalism also, the nature of feudalism, different scholars have different opinions. This question is about who are the different proponents of Indian feudalism. And James Todd, he was the one who for the first time described this time period as the feudal one. and how, what is the meaning of feudal one? They are talking about, they are comparing Indian system with the European system. During this time period, in Europe, what was happening? When it comes to Europe, there was king, and under king, feudal lords were there. They used to maintain huge army, and under them, many serfs were working. So they were peasants, but slaves like peasants. This was the condition when it comes to Europe during those times. That is why in European historian, they used to consider one particular specific term called Dark Ages. European medieval times as Dark Ages, because there is no centralized one, continuous one king after the other, they were fighting against each other. Now, these European scholars, they always see the Indian history also through the prism of European knowledge. That is why they tried to apply similar kind of concept to this also. And they said, here there is no single king was there, many feudal lords were there, and during this time period, so many land grants were given. Gradually, these land grants led to the rise of different feudal lords. And one is, the first interpretation is James Todd. You write about, he was the one who gave this interpretation initially. But when it comes to Indian scholars, the Marxist tradition has completely altered the way they saw Indian history. Always, there are two segments of Indian historians. That one set historians always see Indian past as dynastic politics. Like one dynasty was ruling, and after that, second dynasty came, after that, third dynasty came. So this is our history. In even our school days also, we used to study like this ruler, after this next ruler, and we used to see different ruler name and the time period also. And this is one of the reasons why many students are also not very much comfortable in history. They always feel that it is very factual in nature, because we were taught like that. When it comes to Marxist historian, they started talking about the common people. That what is the economic nature, what is the condition of peasants, what is the condition of ruler, relationship between ruler and common people likewise. D.D. Koshambi is the one who revolutionized this kind of interpretation, Marxist historian. And he said that Marxist historians were dissatisfied with Marx. They did not apply exactly the Marx way of thinking. They applied for the Indian context. So he said, Indian feudalism having two types of models. One is from above, second one is from below. From above means the rulers used to give land grants. Rulers, for example, Rajput rulers were there. In order to legitimize their rule, they used to give land grants to Brahmanas. They used to give land grants to religious monasteries like Jainism and Buddhism, Brahmanism. Gradually, these land grants led to the creation of a system, political power. Similarly, during this time period, the trading activities also limited. Because of this, usage of coins also limited. And naturally, when you want to give the salaries, what you will do? As a ruler, you have to give the salaries to administrator, but you don't have the money, then you will give the land. For officers also, these people, rulers started giving land grants. And gradually, these administrators carved out their independent, semi-autonomous kingdoms. We call them Samantas. And that is why we will find so many titles like Raja, and above him Maharaja, and above him Maharaja. These titles themselves are giving the indication to us that there was no single Raja, there was no single ruler, multiple people were there. This is what D.D. Koshambi said, from above, feudalism from above. That means the ruler is giving the land grants. Second one is feudalism from below. He said individuals and small groups rising to become landlords and vassals of the kings. And when individuals, when they gain more and more land, it's like earning from below, and after extracting as much land as possible, they themselves behave like feudal lords. So one is king grant, another one is people earning the land. So those are the two things. Now R.S. Sharma is the next important proponent of Indian feudalism. And he has written this book, Indian Feudalism in 1965. And according to this, he envisioned rise of feudalism in early history entirely as a consequence of state action. When it comes to D.D. Koshambi, at least he gave two interpretations. But when it comes to R.S. Sharma, he completely said it is completely because of state. State started giving so many land grants, and because of this, feudalism emerged. And there are other people, other scholars also, who agreed to this type of B.N.S. Yadava and D.N. Jha. They agreed to R.S. Sharma's view, and D.C. Sarkar, he opposed the R.S. Sharma's view. But these are the names you need to mention about in this particular example. So, because it is particularly asking about the proponent, and you have to mention the scholars. This is the question when it comes to feudalism. All of you clear? Samanta system become hereditary? Yes, very good. So all these, when so many land grants were given, this feudalism concept emerged. Next one. What is the next question? Examine the defects in Al-Biruni's assessment of Indian society. Now you see, this is related to sources of early medieval period. One is, this is confusing part, and another part is the sources. And we know about these people, what are the various sources. During this time period, there were so many invasions also. Now we are talking about 1200. In this time period, particularly from 1000 AD onwards, so many raids, Ghazni Muhammad raids started around 1000 AD. And after that, Ghurid invasions started, that finally led to the rise of Delhi Sultanate. Now this question is asking about, when Al-Biruni came to India, he observed Indian system. Al-Biruni, he belonged to a place called Khwarizm, present-day Uzbekistan. When Ghazni Muhammad, he raided India multiple times. According to some estimate, 17 times he raided. As per Al-Biruni, Indians were not well versed with art of history. Yes, that is one way of his opinion. Now when Ghazni was coming, raiding Al-Biruni, he also accompanied the soldiers of Ghazni. But he was interested in observing India's condition. He was a scholar and he was not a soldier, but he came to India along with the Ghazni forces in 1000, 1819, this time period. During this time period, Ghazni was raiding Kanauj, Madura, those regions. And Al-Biruni came. When Ghazni forces went back, Al-Biruni stayed and he observed Indian conditions in this area. And whatever his observations he has observed, he has written a book called Kitab-ul-Hind. Tariq-ul-Hind or Kitab-ul-Hind, both are same. In this one, he mentions about various social conditions, science and technology in case of India, and he mentioned it is a closed society and different segments. Like you observe during Mauryan time period, Megasthenes account. Megasthenes came to India, he observed, he has written a book called Indica. Similarly, when it comes to 11th century, Al-Biruni observed this, and the question is not about what are his observations. Question is about what are the limitations. You observe this. Examine the defects in Al-Biruni's assessment of Indian society. That is why this question becomes a little bit difficult. Generally, every student read about Al-Biruni's description about India. But here specifically asking about defects. And now you observe this. When Megasthenes says there was no slavery, what does it mean? He is comparing slavery when it comes to European Greek slavery and Indian slavery. And according to Greek standards, Indian slaves were treated well. That is why for Megasthenes it appeared there was no slavery. And similar kind of misinterpretation might be possible when it comes to Al-Biruni also. Al-Biruni came from this culture. And when it comes to this culture, he will try to see Indian culture also through the prism of Central Asian culture. That is why cultural differences will come. As a result, what happens? Mostly he was focusing on the limitations of Indian society rather than similarities between Central Asian and Indian. When it comes to Indian history, Central Asian contacts were always there. Since post-Mauryan time period, we are seeing Shakas, Kushanas, so many people came from the Central Asia. And there were commonalities are also there. But he always observed the more focus was given to the differences, that was cultural difference. Another one is, his observation is only limited to Gangetic Valley. And whatever he is describing, it is not describing entire India. In south, something else is happening. In Deccan, something else is happening. In Western India, something else is happening. But his observation is this. That is why we cannot take whatever his observations were there. Those were the conditions of entire India. Those were the conditions of Gangetic Valley. Another one. He was observing to some extent, but mostly he was depending on the others, like Brahmanas and other people. And what is the guarantee that whatever information he is getting is the right one? Misinterpretation may take place. Another one, he was depending on Sanskrit works. And he know many languages, he learned Sanskrit also. And when he was reading the Sanskrit works, the nuances of Sanskrit words, grammar, Al-Biruni might not have correctly interpreted. Because Sanskrit is such a difficult one. Even Brahmanas themselves feel difficulty if they don't have full command over Sanskrit. Now a person from this Central Asia, he might have learned Sanskrit. He directly read, but still the interpretation might be changing. That is another limitation. So likewise, different type of limitations were there. Broadly, just if you go to the subheadings, simply the body is defects in Al-Biruni's assessment. So these are some of the differences which I have given in model answer. Cultural bias, just I have said you. Reliance on translations. In translation, it might vary the real meaning. And when it comes to overgeneralization, he might have given overgeneralization depicted Indian society in a broad. Suppose he said Indian society was a closed society. He might have observed those people who are closed in nature. But when it comes to South India, it was one of the important time periods when Indians were going and building empires in the other outside India also. Cholas, for example. And he is saying it is closed society. Then what about the society of South India? Then this is open society. When it comes to here, Brahmanical texts were saying those who cross the ocean, they lose their caste. But what about these people who are going and building the empires beyond the oceans? That means here description is different and here description is different. So that is what? Over generalizations. That is another one. Next, political context. He came to India when Ghajini raids were taking place. And naturally, he always see through the prism of invader. So he was, in the political context he arrived. Limited exposure, only limited geographical knowledge he has. Comparative analysis, he always compares with Central Asia and European systems with India. But Indian system is very unique in its own way. For example, Even today also we are facing this problem. Secularism, the best example. European secularism concept is different, Indian secularism concept is different. But if we apply European secularism as it is to Indian secularism, you will have probability that misinterpretation of secularism. Similar kind of problem was there 1000 years ago. So that is how he always emphasized on over differences. So these are various limitations when it comes to Al-Biruni. He depended on Indians to know mostly upper caste, very good. He was interacting with Brahmanas, upper caste people, but he might not know what is the exact conditions of the lower classes and common people. Very good. So this is how you have to mention about various limitations of Al-Biruni. Up to now you see how UPSC is changing the questions. Up to now, previous year questions, if you observe, always, many times, it is not once or twice, many times Al-Biruni related question came. Since 1979, if you take for the last 45 years, at least 4 or 5 times Al-Biruni question came. Most of all these times, it asked about the description of India through the eyes of Al-Biruni. For the first time, it is asking limitations of this observation. So this critical analysis, now you have to think about it. All right? Is it clear? Now, next question. Discuss the importance of Sufic literature as an important source of history. Now you see, within sources, Al-Biruni is one source, and now Sufic literature. This is related to medieval time period also. Now outright, we are coming to this part. Now you see how UPSC is framing. Now 2 questions came from early medieval. Now we are moving to the medieval. So 5th question is compulsory. And if you are not comfortable here, then again, chances of marks going down. That is why you should be very, very careful. Each and every syllabus point, whatever UPSC mentioned, be thorough with it. And whatever content that is not available in regular books, we can find from the IGNOU books. IGNOU books are there. And from IGNOU books, the gaps, you can easily fill it. Now come to this Sufic literature. Discuss the importance of Sufic literature. Now when it comes to importance, so importance of Sufic literature as an important source of history. It is asking about what we know from Sufic literature about India's history. First of all, we should know what is Sufic literature. And there are different literatures are associated with Malfuzat's text, Maghdab's, yes, very good. And this is one example. Malfuzat's text are the discourses of Sufi saints. That is one kind of Sufic literature. But there are other ways also. One is Malfuzat, another one is Tadkira literature. Now, these are Parisian words, little bit confusing also. Tadkira and Maktabat, Diwan, instructive literature. So there are different ways of looking at the Sufic literature. For example, now you observe this. In single sentence, you will observe what are the various types of Sufic literature. This includes treatises written by Sufis on mysticism. Sufi saints were there. Whatever they were experiencing about the God, they were writing. That is one, whatever observations they were giving, they were living in 12th century, 13th century time period. And obviously, the socio-economic conditions will definitely reflect in their writings. That is Sufic on mysticism. Collection of letters written by Sufis. That is one source, example of this. Malfuzat, discourses by Sufi saints. Sufi saints used to give the discourses. Today also, many spiritual gurus are giving speeches. And if you observe those speeches, mostly they are talking about socio-economic conditions of present day, 21st century. When these Sufi saints were talking in 13th, 14th centuries, they were talking about socio-economic conditions of those times. And we get to know about the society and the history of that time period. Biographies of Sufis, some texts were the life of different Sufi saints were there, and those biographies will give information about it. Collection of Sufi poetry. Poetry is another way of, it's like poetry means, for example, how do we know about early Vedic people? What is the source of early Vedic people? Rigvedic. Rigveda, what is Rigveda? It is a kind of poetry praising gods. And these praisings we are trying to extract early Vedic time period history from the same poetry. Similarly, now when Sufi saints were writing this poetry, this will give interpretation about 13th, 14th century socio-economic conditions. They consist of poetry, prose, hagiography, treatises, and all these things in single term. You can observe this, and here you can give different examples. Malfuzat literature, different examples you can give. Similarly, for others also, different examples. So hagiographical literature, biographical accounts of Sufi saints, some example, different varieties, different examples. But this is definitely one of the most difficult question. But you observe here, we are in 5th question only. You observe this, 5th A, feudalism, one difficult area. Second one, unconventional Al-Biruni limitations they have asked, not about the Indian society. And third one, Sufi literature. These are very difficult parts also, but questions, and everything were given in 5th question itself. And we cannot escape, we have to write something. Next. Five D. 5D is really very easy question. What factors do you attribute for the decline of Delhi Sultanate? And it is one of the easiest questions in paper 1, because it is very straightforward. Just you give the different causes for Delhi Sultanate. And these causes almost similar whenever you study about any empire, whether it is Mauryan Empire, whether it is Gupta Empire, whether it is Delhi Sultanate, whether it is Mughal Empire, almost more or less the causes are going to be similar for the decline. And when it comes to this also, just I will read the subheadings, you will automatically come to know. Weak successors. Whenever there is a strong ruler, they will maintain huge empire effectively. But whenever weak successors there, again entire empire will disintegrate. Now you apply the same thing even to the Mauryans also. As long as Chandragupta Maurya was there, Ashoka was there, empire was intact. But after Ashoka, weak successors, disintegration. Similar to Guptas also same. After Kumaragupta, Skandagupta, weak successors, one of the reasons. And when it comes to Mughal Empire decline, again after Aurangzeb, weak successors, one of the reasons for Mughal Empire decline. And these are very common, you can apply to every place. And even this is even true today also. Suppose if central government is weak, and it will create disturbances in the northeast, Jammu and Kashmir, in the periphery areas. And that is one of the reasons for threats to unity, integrity of the country. In internal security, you are going to study about it. So likewise, same weak successors. Administrative mismanagement. Again, and when it comes to administrative mismanagement, by the time Firoz Shah Tughlaq comes, Ikta system, even it became a hereditary. When it comes to hereditary, even inefficient people try to stay in the administration and they cannot effectively manage the administration. Economic distress. When economy is not strong, it will have impact on the taxation, and when taxations are poor, then it affects the security. Disintegration takes place. Emergence of regional powers. When regional dynasties are very powerful, they try to expand. Like Vijayanagara Empire, they tried to expand their empire. Bahmani Sultanate, they try to expand. Likewise, in Jaunpur, in Kashmir, in Gujarat, in different regions, different regional powers emerged, and they became so powerful that it became threat to the Delhi Sultanate. And external invasions. Mongol threat. It is one of the biggest threats Delhi Sultanates ever faced since the beginning. Since the time period of Iltutmish, Mongol threat was a constant threat factor. And it has even changed the policies of, affected the policies of Delhi Sultans. Mongol threat. Invasion by Taimur. This was one of the death blow to the Delhi Sultanate. Internal strife and factionalism. When there are internal problems, factionalism, always in nobles, we will always find the differences, and this is one of the reasons. This is one of the straightforward questions, and you can give the just one by one, give the main headings and write a few points. Your work is done. All of you clear? Also, external threat from Persia and further liquidate Mughals. Yes, when it comes to Mughal Empire, Mughal threat. And here also the rise of Babur, because the biggest death blow to Delhi Sultanate is rise of Babur, the first battle of Panipat. So likewise, so external threats and internal threats. Okay, now, fifth question. The motive of Alauddin Khalji's agrarian policy was to curb the powers of intermediaries, examine the measures which he adopted to achieve his objective. It is also one of the straightforward question. Simply it is asking about Alauddin Khalji agrarian policy and what are the various measures he has taken to. Just Mongol threat we have seen. One of the reasons for this, he has brought agrarian policies because of the circumstances he was living in. And it is also a very straightforward question. In Satish Chandra, when you read, you will directly know the answer. And here, just if I write subheadings, you will come to know. More land was brought under Khalisa. We have to talk about what are the agrarian policies Alauddin Khalji brought. And if I write and earlier, different regions were given different iqtadars. Because when Delhi Sultanate emerged, they came from outside and they have to control the land. That is why they given the land in the form of iqta to military people, soldiers. In this way, many areas came under iqta system. That means individual administrator were administering. But when Alauddin Khalji came, most of these lands directly brought under the state central government, like under royal authority. That the Persian term we call Khalisa. So this is one. He brought more land was brought under Khalisa. That means directly the ruler, he himself decides what to do with the land. Land was not directly given to the intermediaries, but directly brought under the government itself. Increased land revenue, that is another one. 50% of land revenue he imposed on the peasants, and moreover, the intermediaries also forced to pay the tax. Earlier intermediaries were given exemption, but now increased the land revenue, and also intermediaries also have to pay the taxes. Other taxes also he imposed. Demand in cash, intermediaries continued, but they also have to pay the tax. And efficient and honest working of machinery of revenue administration, he has taken this measure. It is asking about what are the measures he brought as part of agrarian policy. So likewise, just you list out the important measures, straightforward question, one of the easiest questions in the paper. Curbing the power of Rajas, Jamindars, Barani illustration. You mention about the source also, Ziauddin. Barani is the main source, and according to Barani only, we know details about Alauddin Khalji reforms. Now you observe this. Fifth question compulsory. Out of 5 questions, 2 questions came from the here itself, early medieval, 3 questions. Out of 3 also here, 2 questions are relatively easy, but 1 question Suffolk literature, difficult one, but all are compulsory. Are you getting how UPSC is creating the questions? That is why be thorough with the early medieval part, be thorough with sources. Sources there, and here also sources, and here also yesterday we have seen sources. When it comes to Vedic period, what the question was? Archaeological evidences, literary evidences, and comparative analysis of other languages. So this is how sources definitely UPSC is asking. Always when you are reading, be very specific about sources. When you are writing down your answers also, always try to focus. That is why you require daily answer writing. At least a few months you have to continue daily answer writing. Then only you will master. You may have the content with you, but naturally when you are writing, naturally these sources automatically should come in your answer. But that happens when you daily practice and when you daily revise your short notes. These are the only ways. There is no shortcut when it comes to history writing. Not only history, any writing. You have to have short notes with you, proper notes with you. Second one, revising the notes and writing the answers regularly. And while writing answers also, be very cautious that whatever you are studying, because whatever happened in ancient times, medieval times, we don't know, we have not seen. Whatever we are knowing, that is through the sources. And always be cautious about mentioning the sources. And particularly UPSC itself is asking questions directly on sources. That shows the importance of sources. Try to remember as many sources as possible. Sixth question. Discuss the role of Nur Jahan in the Mughal court politics during the reign of Jahangir. And this is one of the very unconventional one. And you can say, indirectly, you can say the role of women or women empowerment. You can consider in that angle also. Because Rajia Sultana, question can be asked on Rajia Sultana, that is one area. Now, Nur Jahan is one question after a long time. I think maybe for the first time, question directly on Nur Jahan. So this is how UPSC is focusing on whenever you find any particular woman ruler or any power behind women, always try to focus there. Whether it is Rajia Sultana, whether it is Kakatiyas Rudramadevi, whether it is Nur Jahan during Mughal time period, and when it comes to Deccan kingdoms also, different women, Chand Bibi was there, and Rani Durgavati, she directly fight with Akbar. So these are the powerful women during ancient medieval time period. You have to mention them. Wherever possibility is there, try to mention them. Nowadays, questions are also directly coming of their contribution. In ancient time period also, women power with respect to Satavahanas. We know about Satavahanas from 2 royal women only. One is Naneghat inscription, another one is Nashik inscription. These 2 inscriptions are given by royal women. So that shows. And similarly, Vakatakas, again, women power behind the throne. Particularly in these, wherever women's specialty is there, try to focus there. Directly questions are being asked. And here, just you have to know about what was the role, what was the contribution of Noor Jahan. When Jahangir was weak or ill, when he was not able to take the decisions, Noor Jahan was really playing the politics from the throne. You have to mention about what are her policies and what kind of contribution she made to the Mughal Empire. Royal power she handled, and along with her father, her brother, and some of her close confidant, they formed a group. Historians called this particular group as Noor Jahan Junta. Shah Jahan was also part of it initially. Later some differences came, and as a result of it, now this is Delhi Sultanate time period. When Mughal time period also there, again you will find the threat from here. This time from Persia. Kandahar was a sensitive area where always Persians wants to conquer it. Now earlier Shah Jahan was part of this group, Noor Jahan Junta, but when differences came, by the time their differences are increasing, here Kandahar was under threat from Persians. Jahangir told Shah Jahan to go and protect it, but he did not go. As a result, Kandahar was lost to Persians. Now you have to see how the court politics lead to the loss of territory. Once this area is under threat, now it will affect immediately the mainland. That is why you will see Nadir Shah invasions you are going to see, Ahmad Shah Abdali invasions after some time. Because once you compromise this area, you will always find the invasions. So this is how one example. Shah Jahan, Noor Jahan's junta, you will mention it. In addition to the power, she also contributed for the arts, different fashion. She was from Persian traditions became very common in India. So likewise, she also contributed for tomb construction for her father, Itimud-Dawla. One tomb was constructed that is considered as precursor to the Taj Mahal, because Taj Mahal design was already created in her father's tomb. So that contribution also you will find. Conflict over succession, you will mention it. And according to some historians, what was the contribution of Noor Jahan? Just I have given one statement also. It is also one of the straightforward. In Satish Chandra itself, you will find Noor Jahan's contribution. Yes, Tarun. So Noor Jahan, she played really an important role during Jahangir time period. That was the question. And this is also one of the straightforward question. Why did Balban prefer consolidation over expansion of the Delhi Sultanate? It is simply like what were the circumstances for Balban and why he has taken consolidation. He did not expand. Whatever Delhi Sultanate was there, during Qutbuddin Aibak time period expansion took place, during Iltutmish time period expansion took place, but not under Balban. Balban's main focus was just to preserve, to maintain the royal authority. Mongol menace, Chehalgani role, rebellion across the religion. Very good. Those are the main points. Because of those problems, his main focus was consolidation rather than expansion. Most of his time has gone for consolidating. Because after Iltutmish, so many rulers came. Rajia Sultana came, some other weak successors also came, and they were either poisoned or killed by the nobles. The prestige of the throne was very weak. And he was also one of the Chehalgani, one of the corps of 40. And he know the politics of these people. Once he became the ruler, he tried to eliminate one after the other by poisoning or by transferring or by sidelining. His main focus was to consolidate, to raise the prestige of throne. And meanwhile, Mongol threat was also coming, and he has to effectively control the Mongol threat. Always you will find till the time Europeans come, till the time Portuguese, Dutch, English will come, threats for pan-India empires are going to be from this side, the northwestern part. Only names will change. For example, during Mauryan time period, after Mauryans, during post-Mauryan time period, who are the threats? Shakas, Kushanas, Parthians, likewise, from the same area. For Guptas, Hunas, Central Asian tribes, Hunas. When it comes to Rajputs, Turkish invasions. Now when it comes to Delhi Sultanate, Timur invasion, same from this geographic location. And Delhi Sultanate, Babar, again same from the same area. During Mongol time period, during Balban time period, Mongols were continuously attacking all the territories, and they were also trying to make inroads here. When Balban was here, he has to stop these people. That is why just mention under what circumstances he was there. Just a few internal threats. Just if I write headings, you will come to know. Internal threat is one, that's why he wanted to consolidate. Mongol menace, that is why he wanted to consolidate. Administrative consolidation, administration was in disarray, he wanted to consolidate. Strengthening the frontiers, frontiers were weak, that's why he wanted to consolidate. Internal rebellions, people like Bengal. Bengal is always another sensitive area this side. Whenever Delhi, Agra is weak, Bengal, they declare independence, or at least they behave in practical ways independent. That is why they have to control Bengal also, because Bengal is very important area. It is very fertile land. If you miss this, most of the revenues to the central government you will lose. That is why Bengal always important area, because of its fertility and its rich. That is why even for British time period also, when French people were controlling this, British people controlled Bengal. That is why they could control entire Hindustan. So that shows the importance of Bengal. So since ancient times, Bengal region, Bihar, Bengal region, for the first time, Magadhan Empire also emerged from this location only, Bihar, Bengal regions. So that shows trade center also very good, and exports, imports, they can connect with Southeast Asia. They go to Sri Lanka also, and it connects with Northeast, Tibet also. So likewise, it is already rich, trading activities also take place, always this is important. During Balban time, here rebellion was going on, that's why he focused. Most of his time has gone for consolidation. Sixth C. What features of European paintings were incorporated in the Mughal miniature painting? Now you see this. When it comes to sixth question, first question is asked about Nur Jahan, Mughal time period. Second question asked about Delhi Sultanate. Another from Delhi Sultanate. Another one is from Mughal but European painting. Now you observe this. When it comes to medieval part, Delhi Sultanate and Mughals, these are the two important chapters in entire medieval India. In addition to that, there are so many other developments also taking place. Now UPSC will mix all these questions in such a way that you are forced to write questions from different sections. Now you observe this. Only Delhi Sultanate and Mughals were the two important political powers during medieval time period. Why we are particularly talking about them? Because they commanded most of India. Almost entire Indian subcontinent at one point of time came under Delhi Sultanate and Mughals. But in addition to that, so many centers, Kashmir, So one question can be asked from here, one question can be asked, one question can be asked. 3 questions you are forced to write. Similarly, in this location, Gujarat, and here, Rajputs always will be there, Mewar, and here, Bahmani kingdom, Vijayanagara kingdom, again, and here, different small kingdoms were there, Jaunpur, and when it comes to here, Ahom kingdom was there. In addition to Indian powers, now new dimension also comes when it comes to 16th, 17th, 18th centuries, that is Europeans. They built their empires on these areas. So this is how you have to see always not only Delhi Sultanate and Mughals, but you always remember the independent regional autonomous kingdoms. And they are very important. Always questions are framed in such a way that you cannot force. Always you are forced to write somewhere from these parts. That is why always, since yesterday, I am keep on saying that every part of our syllabus is important. You have to read thoroughly. 3-dimensional divinity concept of Europeans to Mughal paint. Very good. So these are various. Now when it comes to now how you see, how European concepts, European paintings and Mughal paintings, how Mughal paintings were influenced by European paintings. And some of the 3-dimensional and shadow, light and shadow. So when you see the image, it appears very realistic. That light will be there and shadow will be there. That was taken from the Europeans. So likewise, some of the important 3-dimensional aspect. One example. Next one, depiction of different motifs, different symbols. You will give different examples. Naturalism. Madam, I may need. Naturalism. Different examples under Akbar, what happened, under Jahangir, what happened, you will write. And one important is oil painting was there in Europeans, but Mughals did not use oil painting. Foreshortening, 3/4 face camera in Sultanate era only. Okay. So those different aspects you are going to. This content you will find in IGNOU itself. When it comes to Satish Chandra, you will not. Okay, actually about to finish. So those are, this detail you will find in IGNOU. In Satish Chandra, it is not properly given, but in IGNOU, you will find this content. 7th A. The Marathas posed a significant threat to the integrity of Mughal Empire. Now you observe this. After Bahmanis, after Vijayanagara, now during Mughal time period, Marathas. Just how Marathas posed danger to Mughals. This is one of the straightforward question only. And you can mention that how Marathas posed a significant threat to integrity of Mughal Empire. Starting from Shivaji, and during Shivaji, emergence of Shivaji itself is a big threat to the Mughal Empire. You mention about the threat during Shivaji time period, and continuous raids in the Mughal territory, and different after Aurangzeb, Chauth and Sardeshmukhi taxes also imposed on the territories of Mughals. Different battles took place, and due to decentralization of Mughal Empire, due to weak successors, Marathas become strong, dominated, and establishment of Mughal Maratha alliances. Because of these alliances, earlier Marathas were not considered as equal partners, but now almost Mughal Empire and Marathas became equal to each other. And at one point of time, the Mughal Emperor himself was not able to enter into Delhi without the support of Marathas. So to that an extent, Maratha power emerged during 1700s. So this was, you can write, and this content you will find in Satish Chandra itself. Just you need to give the subheadings and keep writing it. 7b. Now, this is one area ancient, early medieval, medieval. Now there is a transition period from medieval to modern, that is 18th century. And this year, many questions related to 18th century came. So this transition period, here when it comes to ancient and medieval, early medieval, this is one area where you have to focus. And another one is between medieval time period and modern time period, 18th century is transition one, you have to focus there. Because questions are coming, questions are framed in such a way, you have to write questions from all the parts. Now you observe this. In paper 1, ancient, early medieval, medieval and 18th century. So now this is one question. It is asking about Tippu Sultan. Now you observe this. Hyder Ali was born to build an empire, Tippu Sultan to lose one. Comment. So it appears like a modern India question, but it was asked in paper 1 itself. In 18th century question, 18th century developments. That is why transition periods, you cannot know that where questions will come. It can be asked either in paper 2 also, it can be asked in either paper 1 itself. And same is the problem with early medieval also. In section A also you can ask the question, and in section B also you can get a question. And here Tippu Sultan, just it is also straightforward question only. You have to write about success of Hyder Ali and what are the limitations of Tippu Sultan, but you have to be little bit objective in nature, that whatever comment they are saying that Hyder Ali was born to build an empire. One particular historian mentioned this, but you be objective that Tippu Sultan, he was also an efficient administrator. But when it comes to the opponent, Britishers were more diplomatic in nature, they were more powerful in nature, and they were having more advanced weaponry in nature in comparison with Tippu Sultan. That is why Tippu Sultan had to lose his kingdom to the British. That is why you be objective, you will mention about Hyder Ali successes and Tippu Sultan success also, Tippu Sultan limitations also. Both aspects you need to mention here. So first one, it's comparative. Initially, Hyder Ali, that what are his rise to power and his reforms. He has created in Dindigal one military factory also. That also you are going to write. Resistance to British. As long as Hyder Ali was there, and he defeated in the first Anglo-Mysore war, Hyder Ali defeated British. In second Anglo-Mysore war, equal partner, and both had the treaty. But when it comes to third and fourth one, Tippu Sultan was defeated. You mention about Tippu Sultan. And he was also a modernizer, reformer, fierce resistor. But when it comes to the British, they were more powerful. That aspect you are going to write. Whatever comment they were given, you always need not to support it blindly. You see objective way, how far it is true, you mention that, and how far it is critical, you mention that aspect also. That is how you have to answer such kind of questions. So Mark Wilkes, he was the one who gave this particular, because he was a British historian and they have to belittle Tipu Sultan. He was their arch enemy, and that's why they observe likewise. For example, about 1857, British scholars degraded Indians and they inhumanely, in their newspapers, in British newspapers, they talked about Indians like half humans, half Negroes, half humans, half animals, barbarians. So that kind of terminology British scholars were always using towards Indians. And suppose Jamindars and princes, those who are supporting British, for them they appear as enlightened people, and those who are opposing them, they appear they are barbarians. So similar kind of opinion also will come with respect to this. But you be objective in understanding and writing the answer. Is it clear, all of you? So this kind of question you have to manage in this way. And don't be panic that always you have to support it fully. You be objective in this. Next, analyze the rise of the Sikhs under Ranjit Singh. It is also one of the straightforward. When it comes to Sikh, here in 19th century, in 1800s, here Sikh kingdom emerged under Ranjit Singh, and what is the contribution of, again, this is also 18th century question. One is Tipu Sultan, another one is this one. So one of the difficult aspects, 18th century, you will read in Bipin Chandra itself, you will find, but mostly you will not focus in this aspect. But now onwards, be focused on these areas as well. Just you are going to write about the leadership of Ranjit Singh, like how he was able, just to mention about how he was able to maintain strong administration, unification of Sikh territories. Before him, there were so many Sikh territories. He unified them. Then he modernized the military. Then with his diplomacy and alliances, he was able to counter the threat of British. Britishers were expanding, and he was, through diplomacy, he was able to stop them. And religious tolerance, because it was the area where this side Islam, this side Hinduism, and this side Sikh. So different combination of religions, he has to follow religious tolerance policies. Likewise, he consolidated his empire. So this is one of the straightforward questions. And this is also another straightforward question. Mughal architecture was syncretic in character. Just you mention about syncretic character means Mughals, Islamic characteristic, Hinduism characteristic, Parisian characteristics, so European characteristics, whatever is there in architecture, just syncretic, you are going to mention it. Integration of Hindu elements, some elements like from Rajput style, Parisian influence from Iran, you will mention it. Then Islamic features, Arabesque, so this Arabic style of writing, you will mention it. And different type of materials, decorative arts, different decoration, secular structures. So syncretic, it is a mixture. It is not fully dominated by religion, Islam, but there are other elements also. Secular structures were also there, and influence from the previous dynasties. Likewise, you mention about the open character of Mughals in architecture. The economy of India was not stagnant in 18th century. Once again, you see 18th century question. 8A is direct question, architecture. But now 8th B is economy of India. Now we have to talk about economy of India was not stagnant means just you highlight how economy was strong, how economy was vibrant during 18th century. When it comes to economy, talk about agriculture, talk about artisan activities, talk about trading activities, both internal trade and external trade. And before the emergence of British Empire, British policies led to deindustrialization. That means before that, India was industrialized, Industrialized means the handicrafts were so strong. Had the British policies were not against India, we would have become one of the industrialized countries. But because of British policies, we became deindustrialized. So that means in 18th century, our artisan activities were very strong. We were exporting important goods to European countries. And that is why many Europeans came to India. Why Europeans come to India? Because they were getting a lot of profits when they trade with India. That is why more and more Europeans are coming and settling. That itself is an indication of the vibrant economic conditions of India. But after 18th century, because of the British policies, we became poor country, deindustrialized, overburden on agriculture. All these negative aspects you will write. So just to highlight the vibrant economic condition during 18th century. That is the question. In Bipin Chandra itself, you will find this economic conditions during 18th century. And now, last question. It is also one of the straightforward. Discuss the nature of Mughal state under Akbar. One of the easiest questions, because whenever you study about Mughals, you are going to study about Akbar and his policies. Discuss the nature of Mughal state means how Akbar administration was there. To an extent, per capita income of Indian 460, opposite to 450 of, yes. Good, Tarun. So those things you can mention in economic conditions of 18th century. Now this is also straightforward, that Akbar policies, you know about his religious policy, his taxation policy, his agriculture policy, administrative policies, centralized yet flexible administration, revenue reforms, mansabdari system, religious tolerance, syncretism, cultural patronage, different monuments were also built during his time period. So likewise, just you mention the nature of Mughal administration under Akbar. So different taxation also, like jizya abolition, pilgrimage tax abolition, openness to all religions, ibadat khana, all those principles, open and tolerant policies of Akbar, you will mention. It is one of the straightforward question. Now you observe this, some are very easy in medieval India. Whenever early medieval part comes, questions related to feudalism, one difficult area. Sufic literature, sources, one difficult question. Al-Biruni limitations. So simply if you observe early medieval part and in medieval sources part, these two are difficult areas for most of the students. What the lesson what we have to learn from this paper is, be careful in having command over sources from everywhere. Ancient also, early medieval also, and the transition zone, 18th century and early medieval period. This way, you have to mention all of them. Sulhaikul derived from Tawhida, yes. Sufism, you can mention all of them. So the kind of open policies under Akbar. All of you, are you getting? Shabaridashan, Dinesh, Sanju, Sesidaran, Raghav, Dashar, Tarun, all of you clear? So this is about medieval India paper discussion. And if you are comfortable in sources, most of the problem will be solved in paper 1. And only that area and early medieval part. So be careful with these two with respect to paper 1. And in coming days, we will discuss about modern India also, modern world also. I have prepared model answers also for paper 2 also, like the way we have discussed yesterday for ancient and medieval today. Similarly, in coming days, we will discuss about modern India and modern world also, so that you will have complete idea with model answers in front of you. All right, all of you? Thank you. Thank you very much, all of you. We will meet in the modern. I will inform in the group. Accordingly, we will meet. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, all of you. Thank you, Tarun. Thank you, Dinesh. Thank you, Dashar. Thank you, Shashidharan. Thank you, Raghav. Thank you, Shabradashan. Thank you, Sanju. All of you. Thank you very much. Okay? We'll meet in the next session.